Double toil and trouble with these speed dual commons. I command that Witchcrafter be playable again.
Hey Joseph, they just announced new Witchcrafter support.
Good. Oh, Jesus! That is boiling water. Very hot.
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. Finally, I have been freed from the shackles of bad decks, gatekept from optimization by the threat of a looming ban list. Next week we'll return to Orcust, we'll try out at Ignister. But for now, let's check in on the upcoming support for some miserable magicians, and see if 2 new cards, and 1 old piece of jank, can make a deck as bad as Witchcrafter playable. So here's the list, and I've gotta hand it to Konami. Only Witchcrafter could make me happy to play a card as bad as Collaboration. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by YGOProDeck. YGOProDeck is a one-stop shop for deck building, deck uploading, card searching, and strategy articles, some of which are written by yours truly. I'm proud to represent them, and I encourage any player interested in deck building to check them out at www.YGOProDeck.com. Anyway, back to Hogwarts School of Witchcrafter Wizardry. Witchcrafter is a series of cards originally printed in Infinity Chasers, a deck build pack whose other archetypes were Evil Eye and Infinitrack. So you know, really batting 1,000 there. A choose-your-own-adventure archetype of what class of a degenerate you are, the Witchcrafters can be divided into 2 categories. Students, like Schmidta, who can be tributed for teachers, like Master Vare. Each of the students tags out for the cost of a spell discard, and each of the teachers can discard a spell for a powerful OPT effect. Here's the kicker. At the end of your turn, provided you've got a witch on board, you can add any unactivated Witchcrafter spell from your graveyard back to your hand. For example, if you use the Reborn, it stays in the grave, but if you pitch it for Hain, enjoy your Plus. Unfortunately, the deck's absolute inability to play around Ash Blossom, combined with its advantage-intensive setup and pitiful payoffs, meant it was even outshone by Infinitrack, and that's no easy feat. Until now! Just as the other members of the Infinity Chasers received new support, Witchcrafter has been bequeathed with a few new cards that might propel them to playability. Witchcrafter Genie is a new student, which is Mana from Heaven for a deck that previously only had 1 that was playable. Witchcrafter Demonstration isn't powerful, but it is another name, and Witchcrafter Patronus enables the use of Spell Chronicle, a card whose effect is so absolutely bonkers in the deck it's almost worth playing for this interaction alone. The newly released Magician's Souls also puts in work, letting us cycle spells just to add them back at the end step, as well as enabling sabotage setups. Hopefully, these 3 new additions will allow us to shave the sucky crafters and end with several dozen spells in our grip. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, Witchcrafter Golem, a hand trap of sorts which is largely enabled by Genie setups into multiple creation activations. Next are 1 each of Master Vare, Hain, and Adel, the latter of which comes in handy more often than you'd expect. Finally, we're on a classroom suite of 3 Schmidta and 3 Genie. 3 Magician's Souls rounds out the monster lineup. For spells, we're on the first triple extravagance of the year. 3 Creation, 3 Sabotage, and 1 of Bystreet, Demonstration, Draping, Collaboration, and Scroll. After that is Upstart and Metal Foes Fusion. It's pretty good in a deck where you need to constantly discard spells. That's followed by 2 Foolish Burial Goods, 3 Called by the Grave, and 3 Spell Chronicle. Finally, we're on 3 Patronus. We've got tons of ways to bin it from hand, and its activated effect can be a huge hassle for our opponents. In the extra, I'm just assuming that we're going to play Super Polymerization out of the board, so we're on 3 Duplexer, 3 Starving Venom, 3 Muddragon, 3 Phoenix, and 3 Link Haribo. So with that, let's jump into the games. Now before we get started with replays, I do want to let you know. This still happens. Our first match is up against Dark Magician. I find Dark Magician an effective litmus test to see if your deck is capable of handling the absolute dregs of what YGOPro has to offer. This match is especially funny for a reason that should be clear immediately. Our opponent's going first. They're going to make Apprentice Illusion Magician and get a Dark Magician hand, followed by a Secret Village. They'll normal summon a copy of Magician's Rod, then activate Dark Magical Circle, getting an Illusion Magic, and passing. For turn, we draw a copy of Schmidta. We're going to lead with a copy of Magician's Soul, special summoning itself by sending a Hain. We'll then use Soul's effect, then Foolish Burial Goods away a Bystreet. We'll use Schmidta's effect to go into Hain, then we'll use Schmidta's effect again in order to send a copy of Sabotage to the graveyard. We'll walk over their board and fancy that, they're out of Spellcasters! Well, with our hand full and our board foreboding, let's see just what they do. Yeah, that's about what I expected. So it's time for game 2, and you can see we've already graduated from the DM fanboys to the GX ones. Is that a Liquid Man in the opener? Hope you didn't break the bank on that one. We're going first this time, and our grip is fantastic. We'll lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance. While it's always nice to see an Ash Blossom activated on something other than a student, I will go ahead and call it. Let's see what we rip off the top, and a second Schmitta. Well, that's not that big of a deal. We'll go into Genie, and then we'll activate Foolish Burial Goods to send a Buy Street. We'll use Schmitta's effect to send a Creation, so our Genie can search an Aruru. At end step, we should be able to add 3 spells back to hand, one of which is a Buy Street, which of course returns to the Spell and Trap card zone. We have a negation. Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Ferris. I don't activate Vare here because I'm waiting for the Cross Crusader. They go from Increase into Vion, then use Vion's effect to send a copy of Malicious. They'll go ahead and banish the Malicious for a third monster, and oh my goodness, the Plasma already! Okay, here's a Malicious again. They'll activate Plasma, but I have the Aruru. We'll special summon Aruru and bounce that Plasma back. They'll go into Polymerization for Dystopia, but unfortunately, while they do tie, our Buy Street protects our monster, and they concede. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta? Well, since the most recent ban list mangled the metagame beyond imagination, and I do mean the entire metagame, we had to go down a bit. I think conceivably Marincess could be a popular choice in the upcoming metagame, so let's play a couple of games against them. We're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance, drawing 2 cards off the top of our deck, one of which is a Master Vare. Well, that's why we're on Adel. We're going to go Genie into Adel and then activate Genie's effect to get a copy of Hain to hand. I aim to activate Adel a couple of times in the upcoming turns. We'll set 1 card, then go Buy Street Sabotage at end step, and in draw step activate Patronus in order to get another spell to our hand. We'll activate Adel and eat a Cosmic Cyclone for our troubles. This means we're only going to have 1 activation to feel the field. Our opponent's going to go Pasculis into Blue Tang, then use Blue Tang's effect, going to Blue Slug, and Blue Tang's effect to Foxy, the top of the deck. This card is so strong! They get a copy of Marincess Wave, so I figure we probably want to use our negation before that's live. We'll activate Master Vare on this copy of Sea Angel, so they don't have a copy of the field. They'll go into Great Bubble Reef and bring back Mandarin before going to battle phase, waving the only monster they can and attacking over for 200. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Well, we got a Souls in our opener. We'll activate Patronus as fast as possible, shuffling back this copy of Hain. That's one of the many uses of this card. We'll activate Scrolls, then activate Souls. How's that for a tongue twister? Before reborning Hain with Adel's effect and going into Linkuriboh. We'll attack into our opponent's monster, and what did we draw but a spell? Unfortunately, our opponent has a Solemn Strike for our Hain, and we'll have to try again next turn, adding the Sabotage and the Creation back to hand. For turn, our opponent draws, the field spell that I tried to prevent them from getting! How do they always draw like this? Okay, they'll lead with a copy of Bubble Reef, then they'll activate Battle Ocean and go to battle phase. They'll attack into Linkuriboh, we'll activate the effect of Linkuriboh, they'll set 2 and pass. For turn, we draw a Schmitta, that's great news. We're going to normal summon this copy of Schmitta and use Draping's effect. They're going to chain Infinite Impermanence on our Master Vare. That's fine, I'm not too beat up about it. We're going to go get Hain, and then we'll activate Patronus' effect. We'll activate the effect of Schmitta to go into Genie, then we'll activate Linkuriboh's effect to get it into the graveyard so we can add an Aruru to our hand. We're going to Hain our opponent's monster, and they're able to banish as a replacement. That is unfortunate. Next, we'll activate Schmitta's effect and pass it back. We get Demo and Creation and Collaboration back, so we should be a lock for the remainder of the game. We get to destroy their monster in draw phase. They silent mounting for a copy of Pasculis to go into a copy of Blue Tang, but I figure we need to stop this before it starts. They're going to go into Blue Slug, bringing back a Seahorse, and did not see the Seahorse in graveyard. Okay, well, they can almost full combo from this position, but not in any meaningful way. They'll go Coral Anemone. Of course, Battle Ocean is going to trigger every time. They'll go into a copy of Marbled Rock, again triggering Battle Ocean. They're going to add this copy of Marincess Wave to hand, which only has 1 viable target, but targeting any of my monsters is a fast field wipe with Aruru. For turn, we draw something completely irrelevant. I figure we might as well style a little bit by normal summoning a Magician's Souls and drawing a couple of cards before going to battle phase and performing our lethal attack. So it's time for game 3, and don't worry, I hear you. Joseph, you might ask, aren't you forgetting something? Well, fret not. In this game, I intend to showcase the power of this fully armed and operational Spell Chronicle. Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Blue Tang. They will get to it by normal summoning a copy of Pasculis and specialing the girl herself. They'll send a copy of Mandarin to the graveyard before going into Blue Slug, triggering the effect of Blue Tang. God, I hate that it has the Foxy effect as well. Finding a Marincess, and then link summoning a Sea Angel. Sea Angel will get the Battle Ocean, which we are powerless to stop. They'll then go into a Crystal Heart, special summon a Seahorse, go into Wonderheart, and wow, that is a powerful turn 1 setup. Let's see if we can break it. We're going to lead with a copy of Magician's Soul, sending a Vare to graveyard, and they will immediately call the Vare. Okay, no Vare this game. We'll upstart and there it is. We'll activate Mental Flows Fusion, we'll activate Foolish Burial Goods, set our entire hand, activate Spell Chronicle, activate Sabotage, bringing back the Aruru discarded, passing it back to our opponent, getting Creation, and in standby, activating the Graveyard Effect of Patronus to draw 5! Wow. Our opponent's going to go into a blue Tang. Thankfully for us, we have a Called by the Grave. That'll negate the effect and the Graveyard Effect, which will be activated shortly after. Here's Blue Slug. That's unfortunate as well. Afterwards, we're going to normal summon a copy of Pasculis, going into Coral Anemone, specialing back this Blue Slug, going into Marbled Rock, and then returning this copy of Blue Tang to hand for next turn where it can trouble me further. Thankfully, an attack allows us to activate Witchcrafter Golem Aruru, which, while it can't bounce, the unaffected monster is protected by Bystreet. We'll lead with Draping, then activate Creation. That gets ashed, but we have a second called. Boy, it's great to be +6. After that, we should be able to easily win. We'll use Genie's effect to tag into a copy of Hain, and since there's no protection on it, we'll go ahead and destroy this Wonderheart. They'll bring back a Coral Anemone, we'll draw a couple of cards. They're both Genie, but it's far too late for that to matter. Coral Anemone does float to some degree, but we do get to deal a fair amount of damage with the effect of Collaboration of all things. We'll add 3 Witchcrafters back at end step and pass it back to our opponent. They draw a wave, which is frustrating. They'll go Battle Ocean into Pasculis into Blue Tang, activating the effect of Blue Tang. We'll Hain the Blue Tang, but they make Blue Slug anyway. Unfortunately, they do have a copy of Seahorse in graveyard. They'll add that back, then special it, going into a Coral Anemone, and of course enabling further Seahorse plays later. Coral Anemone will bring back this copy of Blue Tang, go into Marbled Rock, and Blue Tang's effect will trigger in the graveyard as well. What do they find off the top? Well, it doesn't matter if it's a Marincess Wave because it's already in the grip. They'll Marbled Rock, then go to Battle Phase, we'll activate a Ruru, and now they'll Marincess Wave. Good patience out of them, but unfortunately they can't really break our board. They can walk into the Souls, but nothing else. For turn we draw a copy of Creation, we'll activate Hain's effect, wiping the remainder of their board. Back is the Coral Anemone's effect, but it's too late to matter. We'll go to Battle Phase, attack with the Ruru, and get in with my wife. So, we're back with the deck, and wow. I assume in a week when Marincess is as far from meta as possible, those games are going to look ridiculous, but for now, it definitely seemed to hold its own. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's got an unreal ceiling. The best you could manage with old Witchcrafter was a couple of spells in hand under Vare's smug thumb, but wow. Does adding 4 cards at end step followed by 5 cards in standby feel unbeatable? 2, it's flexible. Previously, it felt as if you were playing each Witchcrafter spell just for the name, but the deck has evolved to a place where things like Draping and Demonstration are occasionally relevant? I can't say the same for Collaboration, of course, but it's a start. And 3, Aruru is a card the metagame is wholly unprepared for. It's kind of a hand trap, kind of a combat trick, and sort of a removal spell, and all in ways the current first-string threats aren't ready to combat. And the cons. 1, hands without Spell Chronicle still feel weak. They're better, of course, but like all the rogue decks, if you're not doing something unfair, you'd just rather be playing meta. 2, its interruption isn't enough. Vare being single-use hurts and opens the door for opportunities to bait. And 3, I hate to keep hammering this home, but it's expensive. Unless Magician's Souls is a reverse short-printed common, this is going to cost you a pretty penny. All in all, it's the first version of Witchcrafter that feels playable. But in the context of what the deck used to be, that doesn't count for much. So that's that. Thanks to my patrons, Tyler Slacks, Sir Tachyon, Miko Reichman, Crispy, Distrin, Picnic Blasted, Lucas Geardis, Adam Trevino, Second, Fighting Fang Wong, Pro Yugi Dad, Meatmoto27, Burrito Man 93, Adrian Bra, Adam Sunquist, Isaac Jackson, Donnie Fillerup, Kobe Fisher, and others. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be part of the process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time.